Welcome back to the Snow Point Cast. Today we're going to be looking at a deck from 2008 called Featherweight. We got a top 32 in the Masters Division at the World Championships in 2008. A player from Finland, Tommy Sjöblom. Excuse me if I butchered that a little bit. I don't speak Finnish. But Tommy Sjöblom got top 32 with a really cool archetype. Let's get right into it. So starting off with 3 of this Murkrow. You play 4 Murkrow total. But this one has got 60 HP, Single Retreat, Resistance to Fighting, and a Weakness to Lighting. So Swarm for free, which is really, really good. Search your deck for a Murkrow and put it on your bench. So you just find another Murkrow. So if this one can get knocked out, it's really nice because it lets you lock with the Cessation Crystal, and that can be a little bit risky. A Pachirisu can one-shot you, so being able to lock up and then still be able to have that Murkrow on the bench is actually really nice. And then Hide Crowd for 2, does 20, and you can switch Murkrow with one of your bench Pokemon, which can be the better attack, because then you get to keep, if you have another bench Pokemon anyway, because then you get to keep the energy, and that's really important, and we'll get over that when we get to Honchkrow, but it's super important to keep your energy because of the Honchkrow. Then you play one of this Murkrow as well, so it's got less HP, 51 less, but the reason you play is for Duskstone. So the Duststone, Murkrow can evolve the turn you play it, so you can bench it and then evolve it in the same turn, which is really nice. And then Feint Attack is pretty good as well, so Dark Colorless, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon, this attack snipes 20 out of the Pokemon, so there are some situations where that's good as well. And then you play 2 of the Honchkrow, just the regular Honchkrow, 90 HP, Dark type, Single Retreat, keeps that resistance and weakness. The Pokemon is called Dark Genes. It's really, really solid. So as long as Honchkrow has enough energy, or has the energy necessary to use its attack, each of your Murkrow in play can use Honchkrow's attacks as its own without needing the energy to attack. So if you have Dark Colorless, you can use Darkwing Flaps or the Lv.X's ability, or Lv.X's attacks rather, because you can use those attacks as well with the Lv.X. The Darkwing Flaps is actually pretty good as well. So Dark Colorless does 50. Choose a card from your opponent's hand without looking, and then look at the card you chose, and you then have them shuffle that card into their deck. So this whole deck is hand denial, so being able to hand deny and chip damage is pretty good, but getting that card out of there is really, really nice, because the point of this deck is to zero hand your opponent eventually. You kind of want to get them to 0 cards in hand, and then hopefully you're chilling because you have a Cessation Crystal and all that other stuff. But we also play 2 Honchkrow Lv.X, so it's got 110 HP, a little bit buff on the HP. Free Retreat, which is really nice, and then the same weakness resistance. So Feint Attack for 2, you snipe 40 somewhere for 2 colors, which is pretty decent. And then Darkness Wing for Dark colors to 60. If the depending Pokemon will be knocked out from damage from this attack, you may search your discard pile for any 1 card, show it to your opponent, and put it in your hand. So great for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously getting resources back is great, but there's also some cards that you can get back that help take away your opponent's hand. So if you're still trying to go for that 0 hand strategy, the Darkness Swing to knockout is a great way to get those resources back to help get your opponent to 0 hand. And speaking of 0 hand, you play 4 Absol as well. And Absol is a great card at getting cards out of your opponent's hand. So Absol's got 70 HP, Single Retreat, Resistance to Psychic, Weak to Fighting. So the difference in weakness is kind of nice. Also having that Psychic resistance can be good. So Baleful Wind for 1 colorless. Choose a card from your opponent's hand without looking. Discard it. If you discarded a Trainer, Supporter, or Stadium this way, choose 1 more card and then discard it. So really, really solid. It's just at random, but being able to potentially snipe 2 cards out of your opponent's hand off the first turn is like really, really crazy. Like, can you imagine getting a candy out of there versus stage 2 deck? It's very, very solid. So Raid is also really good. So for 1 dark, it does 10. You played Absol from your hand during this turn. This attack's base damage is 40 instead of 10. With a special dark, lets you get 50, and that can be enough to knock out some Pokemon, and just good to know. And it's honestly just really aggressive. So there are some situations where Raid is very good as well. So let's play 2 Palkia. This is mainly for the control aspect of the Palkia Lv.X. So Palkia's got 90 HP, 2 Retreat, and Weakness to Lightning. We're not going to talk about the attacks because you don't play Waters. But you play them for the Lv.X, for the ability on the Lv.X. So Palkia Lv.X, 120 HP, 3 Retreat, still weak to Lightning, restructures the power. So once during your turn, you may have your opponent switch one of your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Then you switch one of the defending Pokemon with one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So this could be great for a number of reasons. One of them is obviously being able to choose what Pokemon you're attacking, which is really nice. Another is stalling something in the active. You can bring like a Claydol or something with a heavy retreat up, put a Cessation Crystal on, and then start sniping with Feint Attack if that's what you want to do, or really just do whatever. But being able to take a knockout with the Honchkrow Lv.X Darkness Wing, you can bring something up that you can knock out and then get that resource back. It's really board dependent. But the control of Palkia Lv.X, usually what you do is you have the Lv.X, something dies like a Murkrow usually because you want to use Dark Genes as much as you can. Promote a Palkia, Lv.X it, use the ability because the structures or the Palkia is really the only thing that you don't want out. Sometimes an Absol too. But yeah, if you have the Palkia out, it just means if they're picking a Murkrow or a Honchkrow, then you're very likely going to be able to attack this turn, and then choose what you're attacking on their field as well. So the Palkia Lv.X is very, very cool in this deck. I think it's a great spot for this guy. They also play Chatot, just some more Pokemon-based consistency. So 60 HP, free retreat, resistance to fighting, and a weakness to lighting. Mimic for free. Shuffle your hand to your deck, then draw a number of cards equal to the number of cards in your opponent's hand. So definitely really good early game draw, or late game if you need to hit a resource to win the game. And then Chatter for 2 colors does 20, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. So Chatter has some uses as well, for sure. Okay, getting to the trainer cards, you play 4 Cessation Crystal. So Cessation Crystal is a broken card, really amazing tool card. Definitely the best tool card Pokemon's ever printed, but maybe one of the best cards in general. As long as Cessation Crystal is attached to an active Pokemon, both you and your opponent cannot use any Poke Powers or Poke Bodies. So it's great because, you know, obviously restructure, if your restructure is active, then they bring something up. If you've got a Cessation Crystal, then they're locked, which can lock you out of Dark Genes. It's the only thing to be aware of is if you know, chuck a Murkrow with no energy on it and then also have a Cessation Crystal on that Murkrow, you won't be able to use Dark Genes. But being able to shut off your opponent's powers like Claydol and Gardevoir is super, super vital. So Cessation Crystal, great lock card for sure. Especially when Claydol exists. Okay, so you play 2 Warp Point as well. Warp Point, your opponent switches one of his or her, pretty much just the defending Pokemon. This is a double battle wording, with one of his or her bench Pokemon, and then you do the same. So being able to get out of there with the heavy retreat of Palkia, and sometimes you just don't want to attack with the Absol or Honchkrow, and you do want to attack with the Absol, really depends. But yeah, just good to keep your board mobile. Then you're also playing 1 Time-Space Distortion. This is mainly to get level X cards back, which you also play a Premier Ball for, but also just getting your line back. If you can get 3 Murkrows back with this, that's also very good. So yeah, flip 3 coins for each head, search your discard pile for a Pokemon, put it in your hand. Pretty good Pokemon recovery. You also play a Premier Ball just for searching out those Honchkrows and recovering them, as well as the Palkia. Level X's are a pretty big part of your deck, so being able to find and then take them away or recovering them is really nice. They also play Night Maintenance, just basic Pokemon recovery. So search your discard pile for up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards, show them to your opponent, and then shuffle them to you. Just solid recovery there. And last but not least, you're playing a Windstorm as well, partially to get rid of your own Cessation Crystals. There are times where you lock up with a Cessation Crystal if your opponent potentially has like a Claydol or something, and then you need to use Dark Genes. You can Windstorm your own Cessation Crystals, and then be able to use Dark Genes again, which is actually the main reason you play Windstorm. There are some good tools that your opponent can play well, but the best tool in this format is Cessation Crystal. And being able to unlock yourself can be a really big deal to get that restructure back sometimes as well. Okay, so you're playing 3 Crystal Beach as well. So Crystal Beach, for each special energy card that provides 2 or more energy actually only provides 1 colorless energy. So great card against Scramble Energy and Double Rainbow Energy, 2 really powerful cards that exist in both of the S tier decks in this format. Empozong and Gardevoir both play those cards, so being able to shut them off kind of just helps you keep up. I think if you don't play this card, Scramble Energy especially is such a deadly comeback card that it can be just too much to deal with. So Crystal Beach, kind of your answer to that, and hopefully your opponent doesn't have that stadium bump so that you can lock their energy and keep them at colorless energy, which is really good. Okay, so getting into the supporter cards, you're playing 4 Team Galactic's Mars. So this is the hand denial part of your supporters. So draw 2 cards, then choose a card from your opponent's hand without looking, and then that card goes to the bottom of their deck. So being able to use that in combination with an Absol Baleful Wind, you can take 3 cards out of their hand in 1 turn, which is actually pretty deadly, being able to take 3 cards out of their hand, or the Dark Wing Flaps with the Honchkrow as well. That in combination with Mars, even removing 2 is still a pretty big deal. If you lose 2 from a hand, that can be pretty bad. The draw 2 is pretty meh, but that's mostly for the disruption. You're also playing 4 Celio's Network. The Celio's Network, search your deck for a basic Pokemon or evolution card, excluding Pokemon EX, and put it in your hand. So it's just search your deck for any Pokemon, put it in your hand. Really, really solid supporter and a staple in this format. Really solid card. Play 3 Castaway as well. Finding tools is very important, and also Castaway is just a great card. So search your deck for a supporter card, a Pokemon tool card, and a basic energy card. Show them to your opponent and put it in your hand. So can be really good on a turn 1. If you find an Absol, you can go basic Dark, Raid, Cessation Crystal. If you have a switch out, like a Warp Point, or if you're free retreating with a Chatot or whatever, you can just start swinging for mad damage and also lock up. So it hits that whole combo if you have an Absol in your hand, and then if not, at least you're locking up with that Cessation Crystal, which is also solid. Just playing 2 Roseanne's Research. Roseanne's Research, search your deck to 2 in any combination of basic Pokemon and basic energy cards. Show them to your opponent and then put them into your hand. So great for early game to get those benched Pokemons that you can attack later, but also really good at finding energy so that your energy is really consistent. Okay, so sorry, I just dropped the deck here, not gonna lie. Okay, so we got a couple more supporters, 2 more supporters to go through here. One of them is gonna be Team Galactic's Wager. So Team Galactic's Wager is a disruption supporter, just so you can mix up your opponent's hand if that's something that you want to do. So Galactic's Wager, you play rock, paper, scissors with your opponent. Very, very interesting card. And then the winner shuffles their hand into their deck and draws 6, and the loser shuffles their hand into their deck and draws 3. You actually shuffle your hand in before you play RPS, so it feels like an even bigger deal because you don't have a hand when you win or lose. But honestly, the major, it doesn't even really matter if you win or lose with this card. The major reason that you play this card is because your opponent can just stack their hand, like Gardevoir's Telepath, letting them be able to search for stuff and then put it in their hand. They have guaranteed energy or whatever in their hand next turn, and being able to disrupt that is actually a super big. And especially if you win and you get the head, flip the head, or not flip the heads, you win the rock, paper, scissors, and they're down to 3, then you can go like Baleful Wind for potentially 2, get them down to 1 card, which is super, super deadly. So kind of board situation dependent and what happens on the RPS, but really, really good in certain situations. They also play 2 Steven's Advice. So Steven's Advice is a solid supporter card. Draw a number of cards equal the number of your opponent's Pokemon in play. So just great early game if your opponent is dropping lots of Pokemon, and good mid game as well. You can draw 6 cards straight with this card, which is just really, really solid draw off a supporter. Okay, so getting into the energy line, we're going to go 4 Special Dark. Special Dark, it's the darkness energy, but if it's attached to a dark Pokemon, that Pokemon does 10 more damage. So getting that damage buff on the Absol, like I was saying, is a big deal. And having it on anything is also like really good. Like on the Honchkrow, if you're dealing more damage, it's more likely that you knock out, and then you can get those resources back. So just a really solid card in any dark deck. Let's play 4 basic dark. Search with Roseanne's, but also just because there is a lot of dark requirement on the Honchkrow and on the Absol, so being able to hit those is really nice. You also play 3 Call energy. Call is great for a couple of reasons. So there's a secondary effect on Call. You can end your turn, search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, put them on your bench. If you start an Absol and you go Call energy for a Murkrow and a Palkia, that's a great start. Or even a Chatot, depending on what your hand looks like. If your hand's pretty bad, being able to go Chatot to potentially get something back, at least you're drawing cards. And then it's also a colorless energy, so you can use it for Baleful Wind for Absol and to fulfill the colorless attacks on the Honchkrow. They're also playing 2 Warp energy, so the mobility in this deck, kind of a big deal, being able to switch around, especially when restructure can, there's one thing that your opponent can do, and usually it's bring up Absol, and if you need to attach to something else and not Absol to retreat, being able to, well, I guess you still have to attach, but one of the things is with Palkia is if you have a Palkia on the bench and you use restructure, they can bring it up, and it's 3 retreat. So the Absol's 1, you can usually afford to do the single retreat, but the 3 retreat on the Palkia is really, really heavy, so you prefer not to retreat 3 manually there, so that's kind of why you play the 2 warp point, just to keep your Palkias moving if you do need to use a restructure at some point in the game. Okay, well, this has been Tommy Schielborn's top 32 featherweight list. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get to them. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.